as you're still writing what you would hope to gain from this workshop. My name is Eva Centano. I am an applied positive psychology practitioner. Positive psychology is a new arm in psychology. It's about 15 years old. It was begun by Martin Seligman, and it's trying to look at the well-being of a person, how someone can flourish in their life, rather than psychology being what's going wrong in your life. You're trying to look at what's going well, how you can enhance it, what tools you can put in place to flourish and have a better sense of well-being. And one of the tools is forgiveness. Now, forgiveness is a huge topic, and we only have 1 hour. So, we're not going to open up Pandora's box and lay out all of our huge forgiveness problems. But we are going to look at certain tools that you could apply to your life. I have handouts. You can then go home and try to work through some of these tools. They're easy. They help. They work. And if you apply them over and over, we were talking about how forgiveness is a process and it's layers. It doesn't just happen overnight. Oh, boom, I forgive them. It's bringing an awareness to what it is you need to forgive or want to forgive. And it's really all about you. And that's key. This is not about the other person. It is not about condoning, accepting, excusing. It's for you. It's for your heart. It's for your body. And that's why you're going to try to work on some forgiveness. I want to begin by reading a poem by Rumi, The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So, we can't go through life without having some slight, some disappointment, some betrayal, some anger. It's not possible. None of us. We all, as you travel through, somebody will say something, somebody will do something, there'll be something acting out, it's just not possible. So what we need to do is learn how to deal with some of these disappointments, some of these sorrows, some of this anger, some of this, how could they do that to me? So, forgiveness. It's to help with your pain, and we do it so that we can lower our blood pressure, we can relieve our stress, and keep our immune system healthy. And there's a story about a backpack. When you enter this life, you're given an imaginary empty backpack. And as you go through life, fill it with this stone, with that stone, another stone. And eventually, your backpack's getting pretty heavy. And so what you want to try to do is take some of these stones out and look at them. Are they serving you anymore? Are they helpful? Can you release them? It's time to let that go. And a lot of that has to do with forgiveness and things that may have happened in the past, things that keep cropping up and blocking our energy. And you might need to release some of these stones. And some of these tools will help you do that. So I know a lot of you have heard these kinds of things, but holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. And you are the one who gets burned. A lot of times we want somebody to know they should be forgiven, that they have to say, I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with them. Forget them understanding what they did. Half the time, people don't even know what they've done to you. Half the time, even if you think they know, they can't get there because they only maybe can do so much as a person. But you, somewhere inside of you, have to say, all right, I need to let this go. What can I do? Can I look at the other side of this and maybe develop some empathy for the person? That's a possibility. Flip it over. Maybe they are too immature. Maybe they will never be able to give me what I want. There are other sides to the coin. We can't control other people. We can only control our own feelings and ourselves. So, how do we do this? I talked about how forgiveness has been shown to reduce the anger and hurt, and it leads to greater feelings of hope and compassion. You need to practice it. It doesn't happen, again, overnight. It takes practice, it takes thought, and it's a forgiveness as a gift to you for your heart. And again, forgiveness doesn't excuse their behavior. Forgiveness prevents their behavior from destroying your heart. A lot of times people don't want to forgive somebody because they feel, I'm going to let them off the hook, and they shouldn't be forgiven. They've done this to me and that to me, and what an outrage. Nothing to do with them. It's more, you need to say to yourself, you know what, it's time to move on. I don't want to stay stuck in this. Because if you realize it, it's closing your arteries. It's keeping your brain busy at night, that you can't move on to the next level. Now you may do a forgiveness exercise and never see this person again. You don't need to write a forgiveness letter and give it to the person. A forgiveness letter is written for you. You're releasing it. You go burn it. You go bury it. It is for you to come to terms with what happened here. I'm so angry. How dare they do that to me? Maybe I can let this go because I can see the person is limited, or they didn't know what they were doing, or they intentionally hurt me and I don't want to have anything to do with them anymore. There's various ways, and there's spectrums. There's a spectrum of forgiveness. There's slight, somebody cut you off in the street, and then there's a trauma. Some people have major traumas. So where we are on the spectrum depends on how deep we need to go. And if you're dealing with a trauma and you do some of these exercises, I would suggest you maybe want to work with somebody to work through some of it, because traumas are challenging. They go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you face them. So you might want to work with a therapist to say, okay, I'm realizing this trauma is getting in my way, and how can I unlayer it? But the other ones on the spectrum you can perfectly do on your own, and ends up being an everyday thing, letting go of various hurts and slights throughout life. So, high forgivers have fewer health problems, and they suffer less from anxiety and depression, because our thoughts have been shown to affect our bodies. So, if your brain is a worrying, unforgiving, angry brain, it's going to cause tremendous stress in your body, in your cells, in your heart, in your stomach. So think about how you want to let this go so that your body feels healthier and less stressed. One of the studies that have been done out of Stanford has been done by Fred Luskin, the 9 Steps of Forgiveness. I give you a list of his 9 steps to go through. And I'm not going to read all of them now because it'll take too long, and we only have 1 hour. But it's basically forgiving someone does not mean forgetting or approving of hurtful events. Rather, it means letting go of your hurt and anger and not letting someone else have the power over you. By putting less emphasis on the past hurt, constantly reviewing it and looking at it and telling the story, you can change the way that you feel in the present. You can practice some stress management, like yoga and deep breathing and meditation. And deep breathing, I just want to comment about that. That is something we all should learn to do on a constant basis. When you're feeling stress or the story of this anger comes up, you breathe really deep into your belly and let it out. And I think we should all do it now. Just go. Go. Let's do it one more time. And I walk through the streets of New York and do this all day long because it's stressful. And learning that deep breathing and really consciously doing it, do you feel like, oh, your body just like lets go a little bit. So whenever you feel yourself tightening or you're in traffic or something is bothering you, deep breathe. It really, really works. And thinking about, one of the steps is thinking about what you're trying to change that cannot be changed. Some things can't be changed. And you're not in control. And that is a huge thing to wrap your head around. You're not in control. You're not in control of other people. You wish you were. You wish you could, magic go out and do your magic wand, but you're not. There's a saying, stay in your own lane. That, just try to take care of your own journey. A lot of times, especially with our children, we want to control what they're doing or how their life is, or a spouse. We want to change them. It's not in our control. They're on their own journey. They need to figure things out themselves. Stay in your lane. I love that term. So what is it you really want, and what's your positive intention in the forgiveness? And spending a lot of time on self-love. And looking at, is your cup half full? Spend your time in gratitude and appreciation and enjoyment of your life. And permission to be human, which I will get into. So to live is to forgive even oneself. A lot of times maybe we need to forgive ourselves for something that we've done to somebody else. We maybe can't repair a relationship, or maybe we really hurt somebody. We need to spend time on forgiving ourselves. I'll give you a small story. I was with my grandchildren were visiting, and I walked them, they're little, and I walked them way too long in New York City. And I felt so bad. Oh my God, why didn't I take a cab? And I was beating myself up. My self-talk was, how could I do that? I walked them too far. I had to really spend time going, it's okay. They survived. They were fine. This is not the end of the world. I know that's a silly one and it's a little one, but I truly was upset about it, and I had to let it go and come to terms and forgive myself of the decision I made, the choice I made. And it's a small one, but it was true. So, whatever happened in memory is in the past, and it's not happening anymore. There's a story about two monks crossing the river, and there was a female that needed to get across the river, and the monk picked up the female and carried her across the river. And the other monk was like, oh my God, you carried her, you smelled her, you held her, you were so close to her, you this, you that. And the monk said, I just carried her across the river, you're still holding on to it. So this is about past things, when you're still holding on. So sentence completion is one tool that you can use to try to look at what it is that you need to forgive, maybe yourself or someone else. I have that as a handout. If we had time, I would do it, but I want to get through everything in this 1 hour. So what you do with sentence completions is you don't spend so much time thinking. This is just a quick response. If you look at this and just think for a moment, I completely forgive myself, blah, 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 and accept myself as a loving, generous, and creative being. I fear that maybe if I don't do this or whatever, I hope that this will happen. I'm beginning to see that. If I love myself 5% more. These things, I did this with a friend of mine recently, and she came to such terms and enlightenment about what she needed to look at her mother and her brother, and sometimes it can bring to surface some of the things that you want to look at. Nelson Mandela said, as I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison. So this is what you're doing when you choose not to forgive someone, or not to look at what it is that you want to come to terms with. You're keeping yourself in the prison. As I said earlier, the other person has no clue that you're so upset. They just don't. So this is your job. It has nothing to do with the other person. And sometimes you can see things from a different vantage point. You can step back and give something distance. You know, when you're going through an initial upset, you're so in it, you can't even think clearly. But as time goes on, and as you maybe do some things to work through the upset, you can give it some distance and start to say, maybe they were having a rough time. Maybe they were jealous or, competing, or, there's a lot of things that go into why people do things. And so maybe you can have a more mature, larger heart opening way of looking at a situation once you give it some distance. It's a possibility. So, the meditation that I'm going to do with you now in forgiving yourself, since we're talking about it, I want you to just close your eyes and take a deep breath and listen to me as I walk you through this meditation. Take a few slow, deep breaths. And let all your worries and feelings melt off of you. Ground your feet. Sit up straight. Now bring up something from your past that you've been beating yourself up for. We all do it. We're really good at it, actually. So how do you beat yourself up? Do you say mean things to yourself? Like, you stupid idiot? What made you do that? Or do you withhold love? Now I'd like you to put some awareness around your heart. Maybe put your hand on your heart. Just take another slow, deep breath. And I want you to imagine yourself as a beautiful, sweet, kind young child under the age of 5. You had all your innocence. Just see an image of yourself, what you looked like back then, when you were happy, innocent, before you became judgmental and harsh. And I want you to think, how would you treat that child for whatever you're punishing yourself for? Would you be yelling at them? Screaming at them, angry? Or would you pick them up and give them some love? Tell them that maybe they made a mistake. Maybe there's a better behavior they could choose. And give them some love. Just allow yourself, in your heart, feel what happens when you treat yourself like a loving, innocent, beautiful child. And see if you can open up that place of compassion, that place of forgiveness, where you know you deserve better. And when your heart feels open to that child, and you just all feel that gentleness and love come into your adult self. And say, I forgive myself completely. I forgive myself completely. I will love and forgive myself today. Give yourself a giant hug. Give that child who's inside a hug and some love. And exhale. And breathe. And commit to having a love-feeling day. One that you deserve. Because you deserve to be loved and cared for. And when you're ready, just open your eyes. Now I know this doesn't have to do with forgiveness of another, but many, many times we need to give ourselves forgiveness and self-love for various situations. And we all have that innocent child within us. A lot of times that's the child that's coming out and needs to be loved and cared for. So if you can do that meditation for yourself, stop ruminating and move on. Ruminating is like Groundhog's Day. You go over and over and over the story. I had a incident the other day where I was talking with a friend of mine about doing this forgiveness workshop. And we got on the topic and she went, my son had this 4th grade teacher. Her son's graduating high school. My son had a 4th grade teacher, and the 4th grade teacher was so mean to him. She went into that story. I think she spoke 20 minutes about this story and got red in the face. She was back in that 4th grade classroom, angry at this teacher for what happened years earlier. And then she turned to me and she said, I think I need to forgive this teacher, right? I said, yes, and you need to look at the silver lining. Her son then went on to another school and flourished, and it was a better situation. There was goodness that came out of it. And a lot of times when there are bad things that happen, in time you can look back and see there was good that came out of it. Sometimes somebody can betray you and the relationship's over, and years later you're happier than you've ever been in your entire life. I mean, it is possible. And so rather than carrying that anger, you can look at it and go, thank goodness you did that to me. I am better off now than I ever was before. It happens. So when you can flip it around and look at the other side and see the growth that maybe you went through or the opportunity that came out of a situation, the ruminating and the sticking with it and telling the story over, and it gets old, and it's a burden, and it's Groundhog Day. You want to move on. And there was a great saying that says, I don't look back because that's not the way I'm going. And I love that because it's so true. You want to look forward. So some of this stuff, you just have to let it go. It's over. It's in the past. And one way that I do this is this image. This really works for me. And I've shared it with a lot of people, and they really can relate to it. When your mind is going down a negative thought, or a bad story, or an anger, and you're going, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that to me, or I'm so upset, or blah, blah, blah. I use my big red circle, and I go, no, I don't want to spend my time thinking about this and churning about it and getting my stomach all upset and my heart all tight. I do not want to spend my time doing that. So I do this red circle, and I take the steering wheel, bring it over here, and do something that makes me happy. Whether it's going out for a walk in nature, I change the channel by going, do something that makes me feel good. Look at pictures of my grandchildren, cooking, take a walk, exercise, music. Maybe you want to come back to it later, but don't waste all of your time. There's a great thing in coaching that says, you're not helping me right now. I'm putting you on a shelf. I'll look at you later. That thought or that upset. And a lot of times we don't even bother to go back to it. You just change the channel. So this is one way I change the channel. People have a variety of techniques. Pinch themselves, they switch bands on wrists, they do all sorts of things. But this works for me. Journaling is also a terrific way of coming to terms with forgiveness, things that are upsetting you, disappointments, James Pennybaker has done major research on writing therapy and how it can help you self-analyze. I've journaled my whole life, and until I took positive psychology, I never knew it was a self-analysis, but it did. It helped me through many things, like, let's say you can't sleep at night. You're churning about something. Sometimes it's good to get up and just write. You put it down on paper, you get it out of your mind. You might be able to go back to sleep after that. But journaling on its own is a great way of releasing onto paper all of the feelings that you're having, the anger, the disappointment, the upset, the this. It's a great way of getting it out of you. And a lot of times, what I'll do is I'll journal, I'll write everything out. I'm so angry, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll go, is there another way I maybe can think about this? And sometimes it can come around and you can go full circle. A lot of times it comes back to love, which is love of self, love of life, love of something. It's interesting. So getting it out onto paper is a terrific tool. And journals are just for you. Nobody's to read them. I always say, I have to go burning all of my journals, because if my kids found them, they would say, boy, Mom was so depressed. What was she doing? Because that's when I would mostly journal, when I was upset about something and I had to really look at it. Another thing is permission to be human. Permission to be human was like one of the greatest statements I heard during positive psychology. Tal Ben-Shahar used it. And what I loved about it was it made me think, not only do I give somebody else permission to be human, they made a mistake. People make mistakes. People do things. People say stupid things. They just do. We're all human. It also allowed me to give myself permission to be human. And I found that like a burden came off of my shoulders. Whoa. I can give myself permission to be human, to make a mistake, to not be perfect, to, it's okay. We all make mistakes. We all are human beings. So maybe looking at the person who upset you, you can let yourself off the hook. Maybe you can forgive somebody else too, and find empathy for that other person somewhere. Somehow. It cultivates your compassion, your empathy, and your positive feelings. So forgiving ourselves for something we may regret from the past, as we move through forgiveness, we sometimes can uncover the light that we have within ourselves. I love the story about this golden Buddha. There was this clay Buddha in Thailand, and monks had to move, and they were moving this clay Buddha, and they saw this crack in it, and they said, something's shining through. And they started to chip away at the clay, and there was a golden Buddha. And the story goes that there were monks centuries earlier who were going to be attacked, and they covered the Buddha with clay to protect it. And all the monks died, and nobody ever knew there was this golden Buddha. And so for years, it was a clay Buddha, until they had to move it and saw that it was truly a golden Buddha. So I look at it ourselves, that we have to chip away at some of our regrets and some of our feelings of sadness to get to our golden Buddha, our child within again, and shine that light, because the goal is to bring your light forth into the world. And if you're letting things block you, like not forgiving somebody, or not forgiving yourself, or living in regret, you're not bringing your light out into the world. So chip away. So we talked a lot about this, I think. I think I'm going to move on into self-compassion, writing yourself a compassionate letter, releasing tension and relaxing into your own body, and strong feelings that can manifest in your body, and tight chests and knotted stomachs from stress and anger. You can do a quick body scan. This goes to 11:15. Okay, so let's close our eyes for a minute. We're going to do a body scan. The body scan is a great way just to relax your body. And this is a tool you can use when, you're feeling tense from the anger of wanting to forgive somebody. So just start at the top of your head. And relax your forehead. And your eyes. And just sort of feel like melted butter. Like everything is just melting. Relax your cheekbones. Your jaw. Just open your mouth slightly. Relax your neck, your shoulders. In your chest. Feel your heart just opening and relaxing. And your stomach, your torso, and it all just relax. Let the tension from your hips go out. Everything is just relaxing. Your thighs, your knees, your calves, your ankles, and your feet. And everything is just relaxing into the ground. You're releasing. Your whole body is like melted butter. Take a breath, breathe in the roots of the earth. Refreshing nutrients coming up through your body. The top of your head. Releasing any worries and thoughts and tensions into the universe. And then breathe in the light coming down through the center of your head and just shining like a rain shower of light going through your body. And fill your whole body with crystal clear light and back down into the ground. Take a deep breath in. Do one more. Open your eyes. Doing a body scan is a great way to bring your body out of stress and anger. So when you go into those places where you're getting so upset with somebody, relax your body. It might give you another way of creatively thinking about a situation and looking at it the flip side, as I talked about. And sometimes, I think we went over this, that you have to look at the bigger picture. Look at the silver lining. Rewriting the story. This is really important. A lot of times we carry an old story with us. Somebody said something to you. A friend of mine was just telling me how her sister is the genius IQ and she's the intuitive one. And I went, that's an old story. That's not true. You need to rewrite this story because she happens to be very bright and very smart, but she gave it up to her sister. So she needs to rewrite this story. I'm doing really well. I'm really seeing how smart I am by doing this. I don't know how she needs to rewrite it, but you understand what I'm saying. We take things, we're given deceptive brain messages. They're called DBMs. All through our life, we don't even know where they come from. A teacher might say something to you. A parent might say something, not knowingly. We all do things. But somewhere in that little child's brain, it's stuck. I'm not good enough. I can't do it. I don't know how. I'm not independent. I don't know. Things come up. These are deceptive brain messages. So when they come up, you go, this isn't true. I'm rewriting this story. Or if it's a story of a past hurt, rewrite it in the way. Like, my father, one woman was sharing with me, her father didn't speak to her for 2 weeks when she was a child. Let it go. Your father was young and immature and under his own stress, and that's what he learned from his father, and rewrite the story. I forgive you. It's okay. You didn't know any better. I still love you. It upset me that you didn't speak to me for 2 weeks, but so be it. I went through it. I'm okay. I will learn not to do this to my own children because it didn't help me and it was very hurtful. You get the point? Rewriting the story, changing it so that it fits in your reality, where you want to be and who you want to be, and what you want to bring forth in this world. This is a very cool exercise. You take 2 chairs like this and you have a conversation with somebody. You know, a lot of times we have people who don't know they need to be forgiven, or they don't even, you want them to know they did a wrong. Well, they're never going to know it, but have a conversation with them. You put a chair, how could you do that to me? You upset me so much, and then go be them. You put yourself in the other chair as them. Well, I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't even know I did that. You go back, but you did. You upset me so much. You play the roles back and forth. And it's fascinating to see. You can sometimes work through some of the feelings and you release it. This is all about releasing it from you, letting it out and releasing it from you so that you're not carrying that heavy stone in your backpack anymore. You may not get it from the other person, but you can do it for yourself. So a prayer of forgiveness. I have it as a handout for you. The prayer of forgiveness, I think, is one of my favorite tools, and I use it a lot. It's when you forgive the person in this prayer and you say it for 10 days straight, somehow it loosens the hold it has on you. And what it is, it's like, I forgive you, David, for any hurt you may have done to me. Any hurt, well, let me see, I'm going to say it wrong if I don't read it. I forgive you, David, for any hurt you may have caused me through word, deed, thought, or action, knowingly or unknowingly, in this lifetime or any other lifetime. You are free, and I am free. And David, please forgive me for any hurt I may have caused you through word, deed, thought, or action, knowingly or unknowingly. You are free, and I am free. When you do this, just the energy that you're putting out into the universe releases it. It releases it from you, and it's the energy that you're putting out there. That other person, you don't even know. I mean, I believe in energy, so it could be releasing them too. They could be getting something. You don't know. And a lot of times we don't know how we've hurt somebody. We may have said something wrong that we didn't even know we did. We think we're doing the right thing. We think we're saying the right thing. We may have said the wrong thing that hurt them. You never know. So the forgiveness prayer is very, very powerful. I would suggest doing it with anybody that you're holding any anger and upset with, and see how it works for you. It definitely works for me. These tools, pick and choose, do them all. The ones that work for me are the journaling, the big red circle, prayer of forgiveness. Use them all. Sentence completion, it doesn't work that much for me, but other people love it and find it very illuminating. So you have to find what is going to fit your nature. Try them all. There it is, the forgiveness prayer. This is an interesting one from this guy in Hawaii who did this with people in jail, and he really brought them around to huge forgiveness. And it was, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And I have a whole article on that for you to read. But it brings peace, and they listen to the other's perspective, and they agreed to honor the other person's differences. They did this to each other, so this is a possibility of doing it with the person who you're upset with. You might want to face that person. These are choices that you need to make, you know, whether you want to engage the person and you think that they might be able to honestly hear you, or you don't engage them at all. I think I missed talking about the forgiveness letter when I was talking about journaling. The forgiveness letter, you write, you write this whole letter with all of the things that you're feeling, but you never send it. You burn it. You bury it. You get rid of it. And then if you feel you want to send it, because that person maybe could hear it, maybe would be open to it, that's a choice. You have to decide what would work, but you may not get the answer you want, so you have to be ready for that too. Something to think about. So this woman, Harriet Lerner, she's written many books, and her most recent book, she wrote Dance in Anger and a variety of books, but this one, Why Won't You Apologize, she's really terrific. She did a great TED Talk, if you ever look her up. She's very funny in her TED Talk. Her husband went and bought bananas, and she was so angry with him for buying the wrong bananas, but she's great. So the thing that I like, the portion that I took from that was that you don't have to forgive 100%. You can forgive somebody 10%, 50%. I never thought of it that way, and I found that very fascinating. An example, let's say you were betrayed by a spouse. That's a pretty big forgiveness. And you've decided that you're going to stay with that person because maybe the marriage was really good and this was a very bad situation. You're not going to throw the whole thing out. You want to stay with that person and work on it. They're sorry that they had this transgression. You're going to work on it. You may not forgive them 100%. You may, over time, forgive them 90%. And 10% you're holding on to, going, I'm always going to remember that happened. You're not beating them up about it. You're not being morally superior about it. But there might be that piece that you hold on to that you're just not willing to let go of. And that's okay. It's all okay. You know, but you're moving on in 90%. That's pretty good. And you're working on it. It's a process. And that's one example. Because forgiveness, as she says, is complicated. It is a complicated situation. And what's also interesting about forgiveness, we talked about the layers, is that it comes up again and again and again. And you may think, oh, I forgave that person, but then something comes up, and you're like, oh, I have more work to do on this. And that's all it is it's your own work. She also talked about how to apologize to somebody, which was fascinating. Because when you apologize to somebody, just saying I'm sorry isn't enough. You know, it just doesn't have enough meat to it. So giving an excuse or rationalizing it, which I thought was, I tried to work through an apology in my mind when I was listening to this, and that's the first thing I did. I came up with it. But I blah, 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 or I rationalized it, and I went, oh my goodness, I think I'm going to have to write this on a 5x8 card when I apologize to somebody, because this was terrific. You express your remorse. Every apology needs to start with 2 magic words. I'm sorry, or I apologize. And you admit your responsibility. And next, you admit your responsibility for your actions or behavior and acknowledge what you did. You make amends, and you promise that it won't happen again. Yeah. You know what? I didn't do this, so if you want to give me your email, I can email it to you. And I'm sorry that I didn't, or I can just leave it up there and you can write it down. So, but this is a great way to, and not to interrupt, you know, to really give yourself the time to tell the person that, you want to listen to the injured person, or you want to be listened to, or taking responsibility, listening with your heart. A lot of times we want to interrupt when somebody's telling us something or we're sharing something. You might want to say to the person, I have something to say to you and I want you to just listen. Don't respond, don't interrupt. I'm just going to share this with you. I'll come back to that, but I'm going to go forward. Imagining forgiveness, identifying the person you're blaming for something, and imagining that you can try to tolerate or excuse their behavior. No, it doesn't mean excusing or tolerating their behavior. Excuse me, I take that back, but you're feeling empathy for viewing the situation in another way. And also, how do you know when you've forgiven somebody? When it comes up again and you're going, I want to strangle them. I want them to pay for what they did. I want to see them hurt and miserable. I wish they never existed. The more you agree with any of these, the more you know you have work to do on forgiving that person. This is a picture of Mayor Bobby. He says, love and forgiveness are not for the faint-hearted. He's an Indian sage. And I love his face. We have all been hurt and slighted and betrayed, knowingly or unknowingly. And this is a bowl, a Japanese bowl, that has been cracked and repaired with gold. And I wrote a whole blog on it on my website about how that happens to our heart many times. As we move through life, our heart gets broken, it gets scarred, it gets hurt. And in time, hopefully, we can fill the broken heart or the sadness or the wanting somebody to say they're sorry with a gold fill-in. And there is gold. Sometimes there is gold that comes from a situation if you can look at it in a variety of ways. Read my blog on that, because it's all about forgiveness and seeing that maybe if it's a family member, that you could see that family member bring kindness to the situation. I know that sometimes you can't even imagine that, but you would hope that you could work through it enough that if you're in a family situation, you don't have to be lovey-dovey, but you can be kind. Hello, how are you? A friend of mine is going to a wedding soon. There was a divorce, a wedding of her son, and she's going to have to face the woman who took her husband from her. And it's challenging, but she worked on a year-long project of forgiveness. She had the most amazing journal I've ever seen. It had poems, it had drawings, it had journaling, and she could have published it, but it was so beautiful. But she's going to be able to say hello to that person. She may not have a huge conversation with them, but she's going to be able to stand there and stand in her own grace and not be upset. She's now detached it, it's moved on. She's stronger. She's bringing a full self to the situation and can stand in her own grace and light and be there. So that's what you hope for. You hope that you can work through your own stuff. She didn't forgive that woman. She never went directly. Why would she? It was inexcusable what went on. But she worked it in her own self of letting it go and forgiving. Forgiving herself, forgiving her husband, forgiving the woman. So love is energy that connects us all. And it's what helps us to take care of ourselves and our community. And from an authentic place of love, we can manage anything. So forgiveness clears the blockages, returning us to a place of love and connection and joy. And forgiveness is a journey, and it's choice. So I hope that you choose to try some of these tools, not ruminating, journaling, working on the sentence completions to look at some of the baggage that we've put in our backpacks and releasing some of the hurt that you might be carrying, because we all have it and we all have to do it, and it's a process. So are there any questions or anything? I'm gonna just go over quickly. Some people said, what I hope to gain from the workshop is how to forgive. What would be the process steps that I need to take? If you work on some of these tools, some of these steps, as simple as they sound, they're very powerful. Ways to help myself clear out the bitterness. Journaling is a great way to clear it out. The forgiveness prayer, it's a great way. How to forgive someone who doesn't think they need to be forgiven or know they didn't do anything wrong. They may never know. They may never know. So you have to take care of yourself. This is called self-care. This is working in your journey of letting it go. You may never get what you want from the other person. It's just the way it is. We can't control other people. If we feel we can have a conversation with them and maybe they can hear us, that's a possibility, but it's a slippery slope, I think. Strategies, forgiveness and for forgetting. I don't know if you ever forget. You know, what do they say? I'll forgive, but I'll never forget. So that's okay. If you work through the forgiveness part, you don't want to forget because you want to learn for the next thing. You don't want it to happen again from somebody else or from the same person, or you've grown. You now are a step up the ladder in growing and looking at the situation and saying, okay, I know better. Shh, I'll forgive you, but I'm going to be more careful next time. You know, it's like putting your hand in the fire. How many times are you going to do that? How to get adult children to forgive each other? I'm going to say, forget it. You're not in charge. You wish you were. Oh, I don't know. You know, children, they model you. They model you. That's what they learn most from, even adult children. And a lot of times they can see how you're handling a situation. And that could be an interesting exercise to share a story just in conversation. You know, oh, I had a friend and they did this and I had to forgive them and I had to hear their side of the story. Whatever. Anybody else have any suggestions on your adult children? And yeah?
I just have a comment on that. I think sometimes I've learned you can't really get anybody else doing it, but I think in adult children stuff, it's you forgive ourselves.
Yes.
There's something in there about us, we think.
That's a good one.
Work on that.
Yes, I think that's true because we look back and we feel a regret, like why didn't I create this or why didn't I make that happen? And yeah, I think that's a very good point. I've had to forgive myself a lot with my children. Don't we all? I mean, gosh, we try our best as parents, and somewhere along the line, we always make some mistakes somewhere. Yeah.
Well, my daughter, she's 9 now, and she's, you know, she's turning into a preteen, so she's like going through puberty and all that. So it's been a big journey for me to just let go and be like, okay, I'm a great mom, and she's her own person, and how she's being has nothing to do with me or like my behavior, who I am as a person. Like really just allowing her to have her own experience, and it's been like, you know, it's really interesting to watch, but it's like a journey to just let go more and more.
Yeah, that's what parenting is. It's a journey of letting go continuously. I used to say my name was Eva Centano. Continuous journey. And in commenting on that, my daughter-in-law just mentioned that my 11-year-old is getting interested in boys. And she said, I said, she's really interested in boys. She says, yes, and there's a way to encourage that, and there's a way to diffuse that. And I thought that was interesting because, you know, the kids are growing up so fast today. So, you know, we try to keep it calm and not encourage it as much because they are so young and they're seeing so much. Justifying. Anything else? Anybody?
In
Yeah?
one of your stories, you used two words very close together, the word grace,
Yes.
which I was very pleased to hear, just that you have word gets neglected. And then you used the word detached, that you did it with grace with a detachment. How can you make the word detached seem positive? I see the word detached as a negative thing of life, but maybe not. So I guess
Okay, I understand because I know that feeling. A detachment is you're loving, you're there, but you're standing in your own space, and you're separate from that other person, and you cannot control that other person. You can maybe offer yourself up, offer your presence, you know, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like my children do not want my advice anymore. Absolutely not. But I can offer a listening ear, so I can be present to listen. But I can't get attached to all the things that they're going through. I can listen, but I can't take it on. I've had to work on this. This is a big thing. This is not, especially as a parent. You know, you're involved. A good example is when my daughter was a baby. I'd rock her to sleep. 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 I loved it. She got too heavy. I couldn't rock her to sleep anymore. And I had to put her in the bed to go to sleep by herself. That's the detachment. It's the same thing with adult children. They'll come to me and they'll lay their stuff, but I can't, they don't want my advice necessarily. They don't want me to tell them what to do or how I did it, or, you know, sometimes they're open to it, but I have to like not take it on, and I can stand from a distance and detach. It's not a cold-hearted thing. It's just, this is your journey. You need to stumble like I've stumbled. You need to learn. You can't, at whatever age, have my wisdom. I've already been through a lot of things. You need to go through your things to gain your own wisdom. And the detachment in that story of the woman is that she needed to, she didn't want to go back into that hurt space of, that hurt me, she upset me, why go back there? She's already worked through all of the drama of it, so she could stand in her grace and be detached from the story. Why let it affect her? Does that answer your question?
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That bliss, especially that bliss.
Yeah.
I see detachment as almost saying the person can't hurt you anymore. You've got to a certain point, you've worked at it, you've accepted it, and you can be in that person's presence because you know they no longer have that power to hurt you.
Yes.
And that's a great place to find yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a fine line to walk.
Yes.
But I don't see it
Absolutely.
negative. I see it more as I'm detached because you can't hurt me anymore, but I don't see it as bad.
I think that's an excellent point. Because, yeah.
I think all of these are wonderful suggestions, and I'm thinking about that detachment, because I realize one of the things that's upsetting me is because it makes me doubt my whole purpose in life or everything I've strived for, and I sort of realize that's what I'm putting into it. I just got to detach from that a little bit and not make it such a big thing. I work with all of these things, it gives me a lot of hope.
Oh, good. Hope is good. Did you want to say something?
I think with regard to detachment, if you've ever, witnessed somebody dying or you've brought somebody into really hard grieving procedures, well, what I kind of like to remember with regard to it is we came in naked and we go out without anything either. So somehow or another, we get through life and we're constantly detached. Nothing really means anything except for each other. So I think for me that reminder all the time that you come in, you're alone, you make your way, and you leave, and you're still alone, but you're okay. You can richer for it. It just helps for that visualization of it. Just kind of really
Helps you.
My spirit a little bit on that when I can't find myself letting go. It's all right. Now we get into some journey.
Mhm. Mhm.
I even see, like, adding to that, I think this is a really exciting conversation. Like, there's, like, identifying with the part that's observing the situation. So, like, sometimes I can get stuck in my thoughts, and then I start to identify it myself as the thought. And then there are these other times that I'm like, just kind of watching the thoughts, like, oh, like that's interesting, like, oh, I'm thinking that, and like the more I start to identify with the observer that's witnessing the thoughts that are flying through, I feel this sense of detachment. Not that I'm, I still care, but I know that the thoughts aren't me. They're something that are occurring within me, but I am that thing that's witnessing all of it. And then I feel like there's freedom inside because I can just let go from that.
You all shared very powerful statements, and it's really very helpful to hear. I love that idea of, sort of having a bird's eye view, what you come in with, what you go out with. It can't hurt me anymore. I need to stand back from it and release it. These are really, really powerful thoughts. And actually, it's a great segue into, I wasn't going to do this, but I would love to do this with you. It's called a meta prayer. And you go into your heart and you open your heart, because that's where we all really want to stay. And we want to keep our heart as open and as light-filled as possible. So again, I'm going to just ask you to close your eyes, ground your feet, put your hands on your heart. I want you to visualize somebody that you really, really, really love. Hold that vision of this person that you love. And in your mind's eye, say after me, may you be happy. Say it in your mind, not out loud. After me in your mind. To that person in your mind's eye, may you be happy. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you have a life of ease. We'll say it again to that person. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you have a life of ease. And now bring your mind to somebody else that you love. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you have a life of ease. And now bring it to yourself if you can. And say to yourself, may you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you have a life of ease. And one more time to yourself, because you deserve it. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you have a life of ease. Just breathe and go. And when you're ready, you open your eyes. That metta prayer can be given to all the people that you love, then to your community, and to the world, and maybe even to the person you need to forgive somewhere down the line. You can send them a metta prayer and let it go. Forgive them. Forgive yourself. And bring more love into your heart and open your heart as big as it can go. That's what a metta prayer will do. And I hope all of these tools will help you. And if you have any questions, I have a card. You can email me. And I want to give you the handouts. There's a lot of the things that we talked about. Pass it along.